In the past, we've offered lake boards that could be customized with the lake of your choice. They made perfect, complementary pieces for cottages or lake homes. We always wanted to supersize one of them, and we finally got the chance. At first, we were faced with the question on how do we pull this off? We knew there'd be some challenges since we can't fit an entire table on our laser bed. The process from small lake board to giant table would be completely different. Luckily for us, we've got a skilled programmer and a CNC machine. Our first step was to sort through some rough cut dimensional walnut and pick out some good pieces. We mainly wanted the straightest pieces we could find since this table was getting glued together without dominoes, which I'll explain in a bit. These pieces are being milled to size and squared off. We marked out our cut lines to get rid of some of the voids and started the milling process. If you're milling your pieces, make sure you check for square along the way. It's easy for machinery to get bumped or knocked out of 90 degrees. We ran our lumber through our jointer, planer, and table saw to get them ready for our glue up. With our wood prepped, we taped off some pine boards to use as clamping cauls. This is a pretty straightforward process. If you want to learn more about glue ups, check out our other page, Mack Supply, for a tutorial and other videos on how to work with wood and epoxy. We got our pieces glued, clamped, and left it to dry. With our table done and flattened, we can start the fun part. This table was a commission piece for a client in Arizona. They wanted Lake Havasu to be engraved on their table, much like our custom lake boards that we offer. If we used dominoes in the glue up, we ran the risk of exposing the slotted holes in dominoes after the CNC process, which would be a massive eyesore and just unacceptable. We used satellite imagery to trace the profile of the lake and translated that into our CNC software. This lake has a lot of detail along the coastline, so we tried to retain most of that information along with the big island that our client wanted included. We had to use the appropriate size bit to achieve this. We pulled it off the CNC and sent our customer a picture, and that's when our problem arose. Our client didn't like how it looked. Our customer was under the impression that the lake was going to be cut from a one-piece walnut top, and they didn't like the lines from the glue up. We decided to keep going anyways in hopes that the client would come around after they saw the piece completed. We laid down a few beads of silicone and pressed our pieces down to our HDPE shop table. We added some dabs of silicone along the outside edges to prevent the wood from sitting on an angle because we'll have to flatten this whole piece after the pour. We simply capped off the ends with some HDPE blocks and sealed them with silicone as well. In theory, the end caps and silicone beads will hold the epoxy right where we want it. We also added some along the top of the edge of the wood to prevent any overflow. It may not look like it, but this table took 21 liters of epoxy. We poured it at 1.75 inch thick using Ecopoxy Flowcast. Our client wanted a translucent blue pigment, so we chose a small amount of Beaver Dust Caribbean Blue, which allowed us to achieve their desired look. After 10 minutes in the degassing chamber, it was ready to pour. We started off with a small amount to make sure that there were no leaks, and then continued to fill up the CNC'd lake cutter. We got lucky, as this isn't a foolproof way to pour a project, not like using an Empire molds form. After it cured, we removed it from the table mold and flattened it on our CNC, doing a light skim with the cutter head. Then onto the most challenging part. This table is getting LED lights installed on the underside. The reason we did a translucent pour was to ensure the LEDs really made the lake section glow. We needed to figure out a way for the light to be refracted, so we programmed a channel into the underside that traced the shape of the lake, but most importantly, we needed to make sure it didn't have any sharp curves so that the LEDs could be run properly and adhere to the channel successfully. After some testing, we managed to figure it out on the CNC. We trimmed the table to size and started sanding through the grids. We gave the table a small 1/8 roundover to keep it simple and clean, as we didn't want to distract from the focal point of the lake. It was important to brush some epoxy in the router channel to seal off the wood and exposed epoxy edge. This would help our LED adhesive to make a proper bond. Then we mixed up some Rubio monocoat to finish off the table. If a single drop of Rubio managed to get into the LED channel, we wouldn't be able to achieve proper adhesion, so we used caution while applying the finish. Once that dried, we planned out the LED strips. We're using 24-volt Cobb LED strip lights rated at 6000K to keep that cool blue color that the pigment holds. We had to measure by running the strip along the channel and finding a good spot to cut the strip. With our lengths figured out, we went ahead and stuck the LED strips, working a few inches at a time. We quickly found out that the adhesive wasn't strong enough to hold the curves of the channel, but luckily we could peel it off and replace it with our own double-sided template tape. Once that was finished, we got the LED strip installed on one side, fired up the soldering gun, and started on the jumper cable. We made sure to heat shrink the connections and then started taping the other LED strip. We used hot glue to hold the cables in place. We flipped it over for a test run and we think it looks great. But at this point, we sent photos to the customer, but they still weren't sure, so we started trying to source other slab options. We posted this reel on Instagram, and they contacted us right away saying that they loved it. Now we've got the green light to finish off the table and attach the legs. Our customer picked out some pre-made legs from Europe, so we got those ordered and shipped to our shop. When they first showed up, we were worried that the top crossplate would really show through the blue epoxy, but we got away with not having to modify them since the LEDs create enough illumination that they are not even noticeable. We found that using a chamfer bit before drilling really helps prevent blowout when threading the insert. We made sure our depth was set on our drill stop and finished off the leg install. We did a final test fit of our legs before getting our finished shots, and here's how it turned out. This table was a blast to build and definitely came with its challenges. We think it turned out great and looks pretty damn good in a dimly lit or sun-filled room. It was a build that kept us excited through every stage. Let us know what you think, and thanks for watching.